The baby was dying. Cole knew it, could feel it in the way Emma's cries had faded to whispers, in the way her tiny body had gone limp against his chest. He'd already chosen the words for her headstone. Then came the knock. Impossible in a blizzard. A woman's voice calling his name through the storm, saying she'd brought milk. He didn't know her, had never seen her before in his life. But she was about to become the answer to a prayer he didn't know his dying wife had made. Wyoming Territory, 1878. This is their story. The howling wind rattled the windows like a demon trying to claw inside. Cole Hartwell paced the cabin floor, his 3-month-old daughter pressed against his chest, her tiny fist beating a desperate rhythm against his ribs. Emma Sarah Hartwell, the only piece of his wife still breathing in this world, and she was starving to death. Cole had counted the hours since the last bottle of goat's milk went sour. 14 hours, maybe 15. He'd lost track somewhere between midnight and dawn in that gray space where exhaustion meets despair. The kerosene lamp cast shadows across the sparse furnishings. 2 chairs, a stove barely keeping the cold at bay. The bed where Sarah had taken her last breath 2 weeks ago, her hand in his, her eyes on the baby she'd held only once. Emma's cries had changed, gone from demanding to pleading to something that sounded like resignation. That terrified him more than the screaming. Babies weren't supposed to sound resigned. He pressed his lips to her forehead. Too warm, fever starting, dehydration setting in. The last supplies sat on the counter. Coffee, flour, dried beans, nothing for a baby, nothing to sustain a life that had barely started. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I don't know what to do." The wind shrieked. Emma whimpered. Weak sounds that told him she was giving up. 6 hours, he thought. Maybe 6 hours before she's too weak to trauma. By morning, he'd be digging another grave, another headstone next to Sarah's. His hand moved to the revolver on his hip. Old habit from the war. What good was it now? What enemy could he fight when the threat was starvation and storm? Cole's thoughts drifted to that last day. Sarah's screams, the blood, the doctor arriving too late, Emma's first cry, Sarah's last breath following seconds later. "Take care of her," Sarah had whispered. "Promise me." He'd promised, but he was failing. Emma made another sound, weaker, her body going limp. "No," Cole said fiercely. "You don't give up. You're a Hartwell. Hartwells don't quit." But the words were hollow. What did bloodline matter when a baby needed milk and there was none? He thought about riding to town, wrapping Emma in blankets, making the 10-mile journey through a blizzard that showed no signs of stopping. Suicide. They'd freeze before they made it halfway. But staying here meant watching her starve. "Please," he said to the empty cabin, "I'll do anything. Just don't take her too." Prayer had never been his strength. Sarah had been the believer. But he said the words anyway, because what else was there? Time lost meaning. The lamp burned lower. Emma's breathing grew shallower. And then he heard it. A sound so faint he almost missed it. A knock. Cole froze. Surely his mind was playing tricks. The knock came again, louder, deliberate. His hand went to the revolver. Visitors in a blizzard unheard of. "Who's there?" he called. A voice answered, female, young, shaking with cold. "Mr. Hartwell, it's Grace Bennett. I've brought milk for the baby." Cole's mind struggled to process the words. How could this stranger know, "Please, Mr. Hartwell, I can't feel my hands anymore"? He made a decision. If it was a trap, so be it. At least this gave Emma a chance. He unlatched the door. The wind forced it wider, bringing snow and bitter cold. A small figure stood on the porch, bundled in coat and scarves, only her eyes visible. In her arms, she clutched a large wicker basket. She was tiny, barely came up to his shoulder. Snow clung to her coat, frost rimmed her scarf, and in her arms that basket. She didn't wait for invitation. She pushed past him into the cabin. Cole shut the door quickly. When he turned, the woman was unwinding her scarf, revealing a young face. Early 20s, plain but honest features. Brown eyes that went immediately to Emma. "How is she?" the woman asked, setting the basket down. "Dying," Cole said bluntly. She didn't flinch, just held out her arms. "May I?" Cole hesitated. This stranger who'd appeared from nowhere. But Emma made another weak sound, and he passed his daughter over. The woman took Emma with practiced ease. Professional. She cradled the baby, one hand supporting the head, checking for fever with a touch to the forehead. 3 months old. Yes. When did she last eat? 14 hours. The milk went sour this morning. She nodded, still examining Emma. She's dehydrated, starting shock. But her heartbeat is strong. She wants to fight. Something in her calm certainty made Cole's chest loosen. She moved to the basket, balancing Emma with one arm, while pulling out a ceramic bottle wrapped in cloth. The milk is still warm. I packed heated stones around the bottles. She tested a drop on her wrist, then guided the rubber nipple to Emma's mouth. For a moment, nothing. Emma was too weak. The woman adjusted the angle, squeezed the nipple so milk touched Emma's lips. The baby's mouth moved, seeking, instinct taking over. Then she latched. The sound of Emma suckling filled the cabin. Strong pulls, desperate. The sound of survival. Cole's knees nearly buckled. He gripped the chair back, breath rushing out. The woman glanced at him. Her expression softened. Sit down, Mr. Hartwell, before you fall down. He dropped into the chair, his whole body shaking. Emma drank and drank, life returning with each swallow. The woman held her, patiently murmuring encouragement. That's it, sweetheart. There you go. Minutes passed. Emma slowed, belly full. The woman shifted her, patting her back until a small burp emerged. Emma's eyes were clearer, more focused. She looked at the woman with something like curiosity. The woman smiled. Hello, little one. I'm Grace, and you're going to be just fine. Cole found his voice. Who are you? Grace Bennett looked up at him. No fear, no hesitation. Grace Bennett, from Boston. How did you know to come? Doc Williams sent word. He said you needed help. Cole's confusion deepened. I didn't ask for help. You wrote to him 6 weeks ago, after your wife passed. Cole's mind reached back. The funeral, the days after, blurred by whiskey and grief. He remembered writing letters, remembered the bottle, remembered almost nothing else. I don't remember. You were grieving, Grace said simply. Doc Williams understood. He contacted an agency in Boston. I answered. An agency, Grace shifted Emma, an agency that places women in Western positions, domestic help, nursing. The careful way she said it told Cole there was more, but his brain was still catching up. This woman had traveled from Boston, in winter, to help a stranger's baby. You came all this way because of a letter I don't remember writing. I came because a baby needed help. That was reason enough. She offered the bottle again. Emma latched immediately, drinking more slowly now. Cole studied her, young, maybe 22 or 3, dressed plainly but neatly. Red hands from cold. Capable hands. When did you arrive in Pine Ridge? 2 days ago, stayed at the boarding house. Mrs. Peterson told me about your situation when the storm started. She said you were out here alone with the baby. Mrs. Peterson, the town's biggest gossip, also one of the kindest souls. You rode out here in a blizzard for a stranger's baby. Grace met his eyes. I'm a nurse, Mr. Hartwell. When I hear a baby is in danger, I respond. That's what nurses do. Most nurses don't travel 1,000 miles. A shadow crossed her face. Most nurses aren't trying to start over somewhere new. Cole recognized that tone. Painful memories, carefully contained. Emma finished the bottle. Grace burped her again. The baby's eyes were drooping. Fed, warm, safe. She'll need to eat again in 3 hours, Grace said. I brought enough milk for 3 days. By then the storm should pass. 3 days. Cole's mind was still processing. You're planning to stay. You can't go back to town in this storm anyway, he said. No, Grace looked around the cabin. I can sleep by the fire. I brought my own blanket. You planned for whatever was necessary, Cole said slowly. The baby's welfare comes first. She said it with such simple certainty that something shifted in Cole's chest. This woman had ridden into a blizzard for Emma, had brought supplies, had saved his daughter's life. Emma was fully asleep, peaceful, fists unclenched for the first time in hours. Grace stood carefully. Where should I put her down? Cole gestured to the cradle near the fireplace. Grace laid Emma down with practiced gentleness, tucked the blankets around her. Then she began unpacking the basket. More milk bottles, diapers, baby clothes, food, coffee, sugar. You brought all this, Cole said. The milk and baby supplies are most important. The food is practical. I assumed your stores might be low. They are. When did you last eat? Cole had to think. I'm not sure. Grace's expression became stern. You need to eat. Emma needs you strong. She cut bread, handed him a thick slice. Start with this. Cole took it, bit in. The taste exploded in his mouth. He hadn't realized how hungry he was. Grace moved around the cabin, gathering dishes, sweeping, building up the fire properly. Cole watched between bites, this stranger making his home function again. You said you were a nurse in Boston. Yes, Massachusetts General Hospital, maternity ward. That explained the ease with babies. Why did you leave? Grace's hands paused, just for a second. I needed a fresh start. Sometimes circumstances make it impossible to stay. Cole understood. He'd left Pennsylvania after the war, couldn't stay in a place full of ghosts. This is a long way from Boston. Yes, but distance is sometimes what's needed. Emma slept peacefully. The snow fell, the wind howled, but inside the cabin for the first time in 2 weeks there was warmth. Order. Hope. She's beautiful, Grace said, looking at Iman. She looks like her mother, Cole said quietly. Sarah. Cole's head snapped up. How did you know her name? Doc Williams mentioned it. He spoke highly of her. Whoosh. Cole's throat tightened. She was beloved. I'm sorry for your loss. Losing someone you love. It's a pain that doesn't have words. The way she said it told Cole she knew. She'd lost someone too. They stood in silence. Two strangers bound by grief. Then Grace straightened. You should rest. You look like you haven't slept in days. I haven't. I can handle the feedings. You need sleep while you can. Cole wanted to argue, but exhaustion pulled at every muscle. Wake me if there's any problem. I will. Cole moved to the bed, lay down fully clothed. From across the cabin, he could see Grace settling into the rocking chair near Emma's cradle. The firelight played across her face. Miss Bennett, Cole said, yes, thank you for coming, for everything. Grace looked at him, her expression gentle. You're welcome, Mr. Hartwell. Now sleep. Cole closed his eyes, expected to lie awake. Instead, sleep took him immediately. The first real rest since Sarah died. In the rocking chair, Grace watched the fire. Listened to Emma's peaceful breathing. Felt the weight of what she'd done settling on her shoulders. She'd come to Wyoming to be Cole Hartwell's wife. Doc Williams's letter had been clear. The arrangement, the need for a mother for Emma. But Cole didn't know, had no memory of writing that letter, had no idea what Doc Williams had promised. Grace looked at Emma sleeping, at Cole finally resting, at the cabin that would never be hers. She'd made a terrible mistake. Come all this way based on a letter written by a drunk, grieving man. But she couldn't regret it. Not when that mistake had saved a baby's life. Tomorrow she'd have to tell him the truth. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight she'd done what she came to do. And for now, that was enough. Cole woke to sunlight streaming through frost-covered windows. For a moment, confusion held him. The warmth, the quiet, the absence of Emma's crying. Then memory crashed back and he jerked upright. Emma. He found her in Grace Bennett's arms. The young woman sat in the rocking chair, the baby cradled against her shoulder, a soft lullaby floating through the cabin. Emma cooed, actually cooed, the sound of a content baby. Grace noticed him. The lullaby faded. Good morning, I hope I didn't wake you. No. Cole's voice came out rough. What time is it? Nearly 8, you slept almost 12 hours. 12 hours, Cole couldn't remember the last time he'd slept that long. I should have been helping with Emma. You needed rest. Grace stood moving toward him with the baby. Emma's been fed twice, changed 3 times. She's doing wonderfully. She held Emma out. Cole took his daughter. The simple weight of her made his chest ache. She looked different. Alert, eyes bright, skin with color instead of that terrible gray pallor. She looks like herself again. She's strong. Once we got fluids into her, she rallied quickly. Grace moved to the stove. I've made coffee and breakfast. Cole glanced around. The cabin had been transformed. Floor swept clean, dishes washed, table cleared, belongings organized, fire burning steady. You didn't have to do all this. I needed to keep busy, Besides, it's easier to care for a baby in an organized space. She brought him coffee. Their fingers brushed. Grace pulled back quickly. Cole sipped. Strong, hot, perfect. Grace began plating food. Scrambled eggs, toasted bread. She set it on the table. Cole settled Emma in her cradle and sat. He ate while Grace tidied. Every movement precise, efficient. "You're good at this," he observed. "At what?" "Taking care of a household. The baby." Grace's hand stilled briefly. "I grew up in a large family, 7 children. I was the oldest daughter. You learn to manage or you drown." 7 children. That must have been chaos. It was, but good chaos. Grace's expression softened. "My mother was always sick, weak constitution. So I ran the household from age 12, cooking, cleaning, caring for the little ones." "Is that why you became a nurse?" "Partly. I was already doing the work, made sense to get training, and the hospital paid better than most positions for women." Grace moved to the window, looking out at the transformed landscape. The storm had passed. Everything was white, the sun making the snow sparkle. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Cole joined her. "Different from Boston." "Very different. Boston in winter is gray. Dirty snow, soot from factories. This is clean." They stood in silence. Cole broke it. "The storm's passed. You'll be able to get back to town today." Grace tensed, barely noticeable. "Yes, if you can spare a horse." "Of course, I'll hitch up the sleigh." "That's kind." Cole studied her profile, something she wasn't saying. "Miss Bennett, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why did you really come here?" Grace turned, her expression guarded. "I told you. Doc Williams sent word about Emma." "That's what you told me, but it's not the whole truth, is it?" Grace's jaw tightened. "Mr. Hartwell, I don't know what you mean. You traveled 1,000 miles in winter, based on a letter from a doctor you'd never met, to help a baby you'd never seen. That's extraordinary, but it's also unusual enough to make a man wonder." Grace's hands clasped together, knuckles white. "Does it matter Emma needed help? I provided it." "It would be enough, except you're hiding something. I can see it every time I ask about Boston, about Doc Williams. You're not telling the whole story." "Mr. Hartwell," Grace's voice stayed level, but there was an edge. "I came to help a baby. That baby is healthy now. The reasons behind my journey are my own business." "Fair enough." Cole set his cup down. "But I'm a straightforward man. I don't like secrets in my house. If there's something you're not telling me, I prefer to hear it now." Grace's composure cracked. Fear flickered across her face, fear and shame. She looked away, shoulders rising with a deep breath. "You're right," she said quietly. "I haven't been entirely honest." Cole waited. Grace moved to the table. Saturday, hands folded like a schoolgirl before the teacher. "Doc Williams didn't just send word about Emma. He contacted an agency in Boston, an agency that places women in Western territories." "What kind of agency?" Grace met his eyes. "Steady now." "A matrimonial agency, Mr. Hartwell, for mail-order brides." The words hung in the air. "Mail-order brides," Cole repeated slowly. "Yes. And you came here because Doc Williams told me you were looking for a wife. He said you were a widower with a newborn daughter, that you needed help, that you'd written requesting a woman of good character and medical knowledge to come west and marry you." Cole's mind reeled. Marriage number impossible. He wouldn't have. He'd loved Sarah, still loved Sarah. But fragments of memory surfaced. That night after the funeral, the whiskey, the letters. He'd been so drunk he could barely see. What had he written? "I don't remember writing anything about marriage," Cole said. "I believe you, but someone wrote it. Doc Williams received a letter 6 weeks ago. And you agreed to come to marry a stranger." Grace's chin lifted. "I had my reasons." "What reasons could make a young woman travel across the country to marry a man she's never met?" "The same reasons that make men advertise for wives. Desperation, loneliness, the need to escape a past that won't let you breathe." The bitterness told Cole more than her words. "What happened in Boston?" he asked quietly. Grace looked down. I told you my fiancé died. You told me he died, not why that made you leave. Silence, long and heavy. When Grace spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Edward came from a wealthy family, old Boston money. I was a nurse, the daughter of a shopkeeper. His family tolerated our engagement but never approved. She paused. When he died in a riding accident, they blamed me, said I encouraged his recklessness. They made sure everyone in Boston society knew their opinion. And the hospital let me go. Couldn't have a nurse with scandalous reputation. Grace's hands clenched. I couldn't find work anywhere. Couldn't show my face without whispers. I was exiled from the only city I'd ever known. Cole understood exile. So when Doc Williams's letter came, you took it. Yes, I sold everything and spent 3 weeks traveling to get here. Arrived expecting to meet the man who'd sent for me. Instead, I found out he had no idea I was coming. The hurt in her voice was real. I'm sorry, Cole said. For what? For the confusion, for whatever I wrote, for making you believe something that wasn't true. Grace shook her head. You don't remember. You were grieving, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm here under false pretenses. Emma made a soft sound. Both adults turned. The baby was awake, content, watching dust motes dance in sunlight. She's beautiful, Grace said softly. When I saw her last night, so sick, all I could think was getting her well. Nothing else mattered. You saved her life. I did what any nurse would do. No, Cole's voice was firm. You did what very few people would do. You rode into a blizzard for a stranger's child. That's not just nursing. That's something more. Grace looked at him, eyes bright. I couldn't let a baby die. What kind of person would that make me? A normal person. Most would have stayed safe in town. Then I'm grateful I'm not most people. They looked at each other across the small cabin, two damaged souls brought together by circumstance. The sound of hoofbeats broke the moment. Cole moved to the window, a horse approaching. He recognized the rider, Doc Williams. Seems we're about to get some answers, Cole said. Doc Williams dismounted stiffly. 60s, territory's only doctor for 15 years. Cole trusted him. The doctor tied his horse and knocked. Cole opened the door. Doc. Cole. Williams stepped inside, shaking snow from his coat. His eyes went to Emma, then to Grace. Miss Bennett, you found your way here. Dr. Williams. Grace's voice was cool. Yes. Williams caught the tension. I take it there's been some confusion. That's one word for it, Cole said. Come in, sit. We need to talk. Williams sat. Cole poured coffee. Grace remained standing, arms crossed. How's the baby? Williams asked. Healthy, thanks to Miss Bennett. She arrived last night with supplies. Probably saved Emma's life. I hope she would. That's why I sent her when the storm hit. You sent her, Cole repeated, to the ranch of a man who had no idea she was coming. Williams looked guilty. You didn't remember the letter? No, Doc, I didn't. So tell me exactly what I wrote. Williams reached into his coat, pulled out a folded paper. Worn, stained. I brought it. He laid it on the table. Cole picked it up, his own handwriting, barely legible. He read aloud. Doc, Sarah's gone. Emma's here. I don't know what I'm doing. Can't feed her right. Can't stop her crying. Need help. Someone who knows babies. Someone who can keep house. Someone who won't judge me for failing. If you know anyone. Any woman who might come west, for the baby's sake. I'll marry her if I have to. Just send someone before I lose Emma too, please. The words hit like fists, the desperation, the raw fear. I was drunk when I wrote this, Cole said. I know, but drunk or sober, you were asking for help, and you needed it. So you contacted a matrimonial agency. Not directly. I contacted a colleague in Boston, Dr. Hastings at Massachusetts General, asked if he knew anyone suitable. He mentioned Miss Bennett, said she was excellent, recently available due to unfortunate circumstances. Thought she might be exactly what you needed. Grace's head snapped up. Dr. Hastings recommended me. Yes, spoke highly of you, said you were wasted in Boston and deserved better. Grace's eyes filled. He said that. He did. said if anyone could help a widower and newborn baby, it would be you. Cole looked at Grace, saw the emotion on her face. So you wrote to her, Cole said. Told her I was looking for a wife. I told her you needed help, that you'd indicated willingness to marry if necessary. I may have been more definitive than your letter warranted. Williams looked at Grace. For that, Miss Bennett, I apologize. You should have asked me first, Grace said quietly, before promising me to a man who didn't know I was coming. You're right, but I was thinking about Emma, about Cole, about getting help here before it was too late. I acted in haste and caused confusion. Cole rubbed his face. So now what Miss Bennett came expecting one thing. I'm offering something completely different. Williams leaned back. That's between you two, but if you want my opinion, go ahead. Cole, you need help. Emma needs a mother. The ranch needs running and you can't do it alone. Those are facts. He gestured to Grace. Miss Bennett is a trained nurse, proven competent and willing. She has nowhere else to go. Also facts. So you're saying we should get married just like that? I'm saying you should consider a practical arrangement. Marriage doesn't have to be about love. Sarah's gone, and I know she wouldn't want you suffering alone trying to raise Emma without help. Cole's jaw clenched. Don't tell me what Sarah would want. Someone has to. You're so buried in grief you can't think straight. Williams's voice turned sharp. Sarah was my patient. I knew her. And I'm telling you, she would want Emma cared for. She would want you to accept help. Moving forward doesn't mean replacing her. No one's talking about replacing her. We're talking about surviving, about giving Emma the care she deserves. Grace's voice cut through. Gentlemen, stop talking about me like I'm not here. Both men turned. Miss Bennett, Williams began. No, let me speak. Grace moved to the table. I appreciate your concern, but I'm not furniture to be placed conveniently. I have a say, too. Of course, Williams said. Do I? Because everyone has decided what's best except me. Dr. Hastings sent my name without asking. You arranged this meeting without my full consent. Mr. Hartwell is being told he needs to marry me for practical reasons. And nowhere has anyone asked what I want. Cole met her eyes. What do you want, Miss Bennett? Grace's composure cracked. I want to not be a burden. I want to not be someone's obligation. I came here believing I was wanted, that I might have a real life. Instead, it was all a mistake. So what do I want? I want to have mattered for my own sake, not because I'm conveniently available. The raw honesty silenced the room. Cole stood, walked to the window. You're not a burden, and you do matter. Emma wouldn't be alive without you. That matters more than any letter or misunderstanding. But it doesn't change the facts. You don't want a wife, you want help. They are different. So where does that leave us? Cole turned. I need time to think. Sarah's only been gone 2 weeks. I can't jump into marriage with a stranger. I understand. But I can't deny you're right about Emma, about the help. Cole's hands clenched. What if we tried something temporary? You stay on as Emma's nurse, take care of her, help with the household, give us time to figure out what we actually want. Grace considered, as an employee, as a trial period. How long? A few months, through spring. By then we'll know if this arrangement can work. If it can, we'll talk about making it permanent. If not, I'll pay your passage wherever you want to go. Williams cleared his throat. That's reasonable. I'm not asking you, Doc, Cole said. Then to Grace. What do you think? Grace looked at Emma. I think Emma needs consistency. Babies thrive on routine. If I'm going to care for her, I need to be here long enough to bond properly. Agreed. And I won't be treated as a servant. If I'm caring for your daughter and running your household, I expect to be treated as a partner, not hired help. Fair. And we need clear boundaries, sleeping arrangements, privacy, expectations. I won't have my reputation destroyed because of unclear living situations. Cole felt heat rise. He hadn't thought about that. You'll have the bedroom. I'll sleep out here. And I give you my word. Your virtue is safe. I have no intentions beyond what we've discussed. Intentions can change. Not mine. They looked at each other, taking measure. Finally, Grace nodded. All right, a trial period, 3 months. Cole felt relief. 3 months. William stood. Well then, that's settled. Miss Bennett, your things are still at the boarding house. I'll have Mrs. Peterson send them out. Thank you. Williams moved to the door, paused, reached into his pocket, and pulled out another envelope. Almost forgot. This is for you, Cole. Sarah gave it to me before she went into labor. Made me promise to hold it for a few weeks after she passed, then give it to you when the time was right. He handed it over. The handwriting made Cole's breath catch. Sarah's handwriting. What is this? A letter she wrote, knowing about this situation, knowing you'd need help. Williams put his hand on Cole's shoulder. I think the time is right. Then he left. Cole stood with his dead wife's letter in trembling hands. Grace saw his face. I'll give you privacy. No. Cole's voice was rough. Stay. Whatever Sarah wrote, she wrote knowing about this. You should hear it too. Grace hesitated, nodded. Cole sat, broke the seal, unfolded the paper. Sarah's handwriting flowed across the page. He read aloud, voice breaking. My dearest Cole, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're alone with our beautiful daughter. I'm so sorry, my love. Sorry for leaving. Sorry for not being strong enough. Sorry for all the pain I know you're feeling. Cole stopped, swallowed, continued. But I need you to hear something important. You're going to blame yourself. I know you. You'll think you should have prevented the pregnancy, should have saved me somehow. Stop it. This was my choice. I wanted Emma more than I wanted safety. I wanted to give you a family even if it cost me everything. And I would make that choice again. Tears streamed down Cole's face. I've asked Doc Williams to find someone to help you. Someone good and kind and capable. Someone who can love Emma the way I can't be there to love her. Don't fight him on this. Don't let pride keep you from accepting help. Emma needs a mother. You need a partner. And whoever comes to you, please give her a chance, not to replace me. No one can do that, but to be her own person, to build her own place in your life and Emma's. Grace's hand covered her mouth, her own eyes shining. I love you, Cole Hartwell. I will love you beyond death. But life is for the living. And I need you to live, for Emma, for yourself, for the future I won't get to see, but desperately want for you. Be happy, my love. Let yourself be happy again. That's my last gift. Permission to move forward without guilt. All my love, always and forever. Sarah. The letter fell from Cole's hands. He put his face in his palms and wept. Great gasping sobs. Grace moved to him, put her hand on his shoulder. Simple comfort. Cole reached up and gripped her hand, held on like a drowning man. They stayed like that while Emma cooed and the sun climbed higher and the snow began its slow melt into spring. Sarah had given her blessing, had arranged it all, had known exactly what would happen. And Grace Bennett, the stranger who'd come west on a false promise, had been part of Sarah's plan all along. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks since Grace had knocked on Cole's door. 3 weeks since the truth had been revealed and the trial arrangement begun. Grace was still here, still caring for Emma, still running the household with quiet efficiency, but now there were no secrets between them. The morning sun cast shadows across the ranch yard as Grace stepped out, Emma bundled in a sling against her chest. The baby had grown, gained weight, her cheeks round, eyes bright and alert. Grace headed toward the barn. Cole was already up working with the horses. She found him examining his bay mare's hoof. He glanced up when she approached, expression softening when he saw Emma. She wake you? No, she's sleeping better. I wanted to check if you needed help with chores. Cole's jaw tightened. Pride. But practicality won. The milk cow's off her feed. Been that way 2 days. Grace moved closer, peering at the Jersey cow. Labored breathing. May I? Cole Stramington. You know cattle? I know breathing patterns. Respiratory distress looks the same whether it's a person or animal. She examined the cow. Hot, feverish, congested breathing. It's pneumonia, or heading that way. Cole frowned. You sure? I treated enough cases at the hospital. She needs to be kept warm. I can make a poultice, and we'll need to steam her. Steam her enu, like we do for a baby with croup. Boil water, let her breathe the steam. It'll break up the congestion. Cole weighed her words. Doc Williams would charge $5 to ride out. I'm already here, and I don't charge. Something flickered across his face. He nodded. Tell me what you need. And they worked together for an hour, Grace directing, Cole following. In the house, Grace deferred to his authority. Here in matters of medicine, he deferred to hers. Grace mixed a poultice from mustard powder and flour. Cole held the cow steady while she applied it. Then came the steaming. Cole set up boiling water. Grace added pine needles. They draped blankets, creating a tent around the cow's head. The animal fought at first. But Grace spoke to her, low and soothing, the same gentle insistence she used with difficult patients. Gradually, the cow settled. Breathing eased, congestion loosening. Emma woke partway through. Cole took her without being asked. This silent partnership, passing the baby back and forth, each trusting the other. By mid-morning, the cow showed improvement. Breathing easier, eyes brighter. Grace stepped back, wiping her hands. She'll need treatment twice daily for a week, but she should recover. Cole studied the cow, then looked at Grace. Where'd you learn that? The principles are the same. Infection is infection, whether it's wrapped in skin or hide. Doc Williams wouldn't have thought of half that. Doc Williams would have gotten her through it. Maybe, but you did it faster and cheaper. Cole shifted Emma. You saw what needed doing and did it, without being asked. Grace felt heat in her cheeks. Praise from Cole was rare. When it came, it landed with weight. I'm glad I could help. They stood in the barn, steam rising, the cow breathing easier. Emma sleeping between them. Morning light slanting through gaps in the boards. Grace became aware of how close they were standing. Close enough to smell leather and hay and honest sweat. Close enough to see the fine lines around his eyes. She stepped back, creating distance, reminding herself of boundaries. I should get breakfast started. Grace, she paused. He rarely used her first name. Thank you for this, for everything. Grace nodded, not trusting her voice, then headed back to the house. Behind her, the sounds of the ranch resumed. Normal, ordinary, but something had shifted. She'd proven herself useful. Proven she could hold her own in this hard country. Proving it to Cole Hartwell felt like it mattered more than all the times she'd proven herself in Boston. The news spread through Pine Ridge fast. Grace Bennett, the woman from Boston, living at Cole Hartwell's ranch, caring for his baby. No wedding, no chaperone. By Sunday, the whole town knew. Grace felt their eyes when she walked through the church doors, Emma in her arms, Cole 3 steps behind. The conversation didn't stop, but it changed, lowered, became that particular kind of whisper designed to be overheard. She kept her head high, the same mask she'd worn in Boston. Dignity was armor. Emma gurgled, reaching for Grace's bonnet ribbons. Innocent, unaware. A hand touched her elbow. Martha Fletcher, the neighbor woman whose husband Grace had helped when he'd injured his leg. Sit with us. Grace hesitated. Martha's family occupied a pew near the front. Good seats, respectable seats. Sitting there would be a statement. You don't have to, Grace began. I know I don't have to. I want to. Martha's grip tightened. You saved Robert's leg, probably his life. The least I can do is save you a seat in church. Grace felt her throat tighten. She nodded. They moved forwards together. Cole followed. They settled into the pew. Martha on one side, Cole on the other. Emma content in Grace's lap. The whispers continued, but quieter now, less certain. Martha Fletcher was well respected. If she was willing to sit with Grace Bennett, maybe the situation wasn't as scandalous as it appeared. The service began. Reverend Morrison preached about purity, propriety, maintaining moral standards in a lawless land. Grace kept her eyes forward. She'd done nothing wrong. She was caring for a motherless baby. There was nothing shameful in that, but she could feel the judgment pressing from all sides. When the service ended, Grace moved quickly toward the door, but hope was foolish. Miss Bennett, the voice stopped her cold. Charlotte Porter, mid-50s, expensively dressed, the kind of woman who wore wealth like a weapon. Mrs. Porter, Charlotte smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. I'm Charlotte Porter. My husband owns the largest cattle operation in the county. I know who you are, ma'am. And I know who you are, the woman from Boston, living in sin at Cole Hartwell's ranch. The words hung sharp, deliberate. Grace felt Cole stiffen, but she put a hand on his arm, gentle, restraining. This was her fight. I'm caring for Mr. Hartwell's daughter, Grace said calmly. There's nothing sinful about helping a widower and a motherless baby. Helping, Charlotte repeated. Is that what they're calling it in Boston? Grace's fingers tightened on Emma. I'm calling it what it is, Mrs. Porter. Christian charity, the kind the Bible speaks highly of. The Bible also speaks highly of marriage, of proper conduct, of women who know their place. And it speaks of widows and orphans, Martha Fletcher interjected, stepping forward. Of caring for those in need, of not judging lest ye be judged. Charlotte's gaze shifted to Martha. Mrs. Fletcher, how is your husband's leg? Healing well, thanks to Miss Bennett's medical skill. Medical skill, Charlotte's tone dripped skepticism. I heard she worked in some hospital in Boston before whatever scandal drove her west. Grace felt the blow land, felt every eye turn toward her. Cole moved, stepped forward, placed himself slightly in front of Grace, a wall between her and Charlotte Porter. Miss Bennett's past is her own business, he said quietly. Deadly. Her present is helping my daughter. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me. Charlotte's eyebrows rose. Mr. Hartwell, I'm simply concerned for the moral welfare of our community. Surely you understand. A young woman, unmarried, living alone with a ma, it creates talk. Let them talk. It creates scandal. Only if people choose to make it one. Cole's jaw was set. Miss Bennett has done nothing but help me and my daughter. She's shown more Christian charity than half this town put together. If you've got a problem with that Mrs. Porter, that says more about you than it does about her. The church had gone silent, every ear straining, every eye fixed. Charlotte's face flushed. Anger, embarrassment. She wasn't used to being challenged. I see, she said coldly. Well, I suppose a man in your position can't be too particular about the company he keeps. Beggars can't be choosers after all. She turned and swept out her niece Margaret, trailing behind. The silence was thick. Then Martha Fletcher spoke, clear and loud. I think Cole Hartwell chose exactly right. Miss Bennett is a good woman, a skilled nurse, and a blessing to that baby. Anyone who says different can answer to me. One by one other voices joined in, not everyone, but enough. She helped my wife through a difficult birth, one man said. Taught me how to treat my son's fever, another woman added. She's been nothing but kind every time I've seen her, offered Mrs. Peterson. Grace felt tears prick. She blinked them back. Cole's hand found hers, just for a moment. A squeeze, brief, warm. Then he let go. Let's go home, he said quietly. They walked out together, Martha and her family beside them. A small group of allies in a town still deciding. Outside, the spring sun was bright. Emma babbled, reaching for wildflowers. Grace breathed deep. Let the clean air push out the poison of Charlotte Porter's words. She'd survive this. Survive the gossip, the judgment, the public confrontation. But she knew it wasn't over. Mrs. Charlotte Porter had the look of a woman who didn't let slights go unanswered. This was just the beginning. Robert Fletcher sat on his porch, injured leg propped up, watching Grace work in his wife's garden. She'd insisted on helping with spring planting. Said it was the least she could do after Martha had defended her, but Robert knew better. Grace Bennett helped because it was in her nature. He'd seen it 3 weeks ago when his plow had kicked back and torn his leg open. No hesitation, no squeamishness, just immediate competent action. She'd cleaned the wound with whiskey that made him bite a leather strap, stitched it closed with surgeon's hands, dressed it with herbs he'd never heard of, then came back every day for a week to check it. Doc Williams had examined it after 5 days and pronounced it the finest field medicine he'd ever seen. Robert had been skeptical at first. This city woman, this stranger, living at Cole's ranch. It didn't look right, but then he'd seen her work. The skill, the knowledge, the genuine care. Now he watched her show Martha how to stake tomato plants properly, explaining about root depth and water retention. His wife had been lonely out here, 3 miles from the nearest neighbor. Nothing but ranch work and children. Grace had given her a friend, someone to talk to about things beyond cattle and crops. "You're staring," his son Tommy said, settling beside him. "Just watching." "Ma says Mrs. Porter is spreading awful stories about Miss Bennett." Robert's jaw tightened. "Mrs. Porter spreads awful stories about everyone. But these are different. She's saying Miss Bennett killed a man back in Boston, that she's running from the law. Charlotte Porter wouldn't know truth if it bit her." Tommy was quiet. "Then do you think it's true that Miss Bennett did something bad?" Robert looked at his son, 12 years old enough to start forming judgments, young enough those judgments could be shaped. "I think Miss Bennett saved my leg," Robert said slowly. "Maybe my life. I think she's been nothing but kind to your mother. I think she takes care of Cole Hartwell's baby like it was her own. And I think a woman's past is her own business unless she chooses to share it. But what if she did do something bad? Then I'd ask myself why, and whether she's trying to make amends." Robert shifted his leg. "Everyone's got things in their past they're not proud of, son. The measure of a person isn't where they've been, it's where they're going." Tommy considered this. "Mrs. Porter says a woman living alone with a man who's not her husband is a scandal. Mrs. Porter's got her own reasons for stirring up trouble." "What reasons?" Robert hesitated. He'd heard the gossip, that Charlotte Porter had wanted her niece Margaret to marry Cole, had been setting it up for months. Then Grace Bennett had appeared and ruined those plans. But that was adult business. "Grown-up reasons," he said finally. "Point is, Miss Bennett's helping Cole and that baby. That's what matters." They sat in silence. Grace laughed at something Martha said. The sound carried across the yard. Light, genuine. "Pa," Tommy said quietly. "Yeah. I like Miss Bennett. She's nice to me. Treats me like I'm not just a kid." "She is nice. Don't let anyone tell you different." Tommy nodded, then stood. "I'm going to go help them with the garden." Robert watched his son jog across the yard, saw Grace greet him with a smile, hand him a trowel, show him where to dig. She was good with children. Natural. Patient. Maybe that's what bothered Charlotte Porter. Not the scandal, not the impropriety, but the fact that Grace Bennett was exactly what Cole Hartwell needed, what Emma needed, and Charlotte Porter couldn't stand seeing someone else get what she'd planned for her own family. The evening was warm for early April. Cole sat on the porch, Emma asleep in his arms, watching Grace hang laundry on the line she'd strung between posts. The sheets snapped in the breeze, white against the darkening sky. She moved with efficiency he'd come to associate with her. Everything done properly. Nothing wasted. In 3 weeks, she'd transformed his household. The cabin was cleaner than when Sarah was alive. Meals were regular and nourishing. Emma thrived. Even his ranch hand, Frank, had commented on the improvement. But it was more than that. Grace had brought order, routine, life continuing despite loss. She'd become essential. That scared him, because essential things could be taken away. He'd learned that when Sarah died. Grace finished hanging the last sheet and turned toward the porch. Saw him watching, smiled slightly, not the polite smile she gave townspeople. Something softer, more genuine. She climbed the steps and settled into the rocking chair. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that had developed over weeks of shared space, shared responsibility. "She's getting bigger," Grace observed, "growing fast." Cole looked down at Emma, round cheeks, healthy. "Thanks to you. Thanks to milk and regular feeding. Thanks to you making sure she got both." Grace didn't argue. She'd learned that when Cole wanted to give credit fighting, it only made him more stubborn. "The cow's fully recovered," she said instead. "Breathing clear, eating well. I noticed. You did good work there. Just basic medical care." "Grace." She looked at him. He used her first name now. Had been for about a week. "You need to learn to take a compliment." "I'm not used to them." "You should be. You're good at what you do." Grace's expression flickered, something vulnerable showing through before she shuddered it. "In Boston, being good at what I did wasn't enough." Cole knew she was talking about the scandal. The one Charlotte Porter kept hinting at. He'd been curious, but he'd also been raised to believe a person's past was their own unless they chose to share it. "Boston's loss is my gain," he said simply. Grace looked at him, really looked, her eyes searching his face. Cole, she said quietly, we need to talk about the arrangement. His chest tightened. Here it was, the conversation he'd been avoiding. All right, Grace took a breath. I can't stay here indefinitely like this. It's not proper. You know that. The whole town knows that. I know. Mrs. Porter is making it her mission to destroy my reputation, and by extension, yours. Let her try. She's succeeding. Grace's voice was firm. Every Sunday there are more whispers, more judgment. It's only a matter of time before it affects Emma. Cole's jaw tightened. She was right, but the thought of her leaving made something in his chest constrict. What do you want to do? Grace was quiet. The breeze played with her hair. The laundry snapped behind her. I want to stay, she said finally. I want to help you raise Emma. I want to be part of this, but I can't do it like this, not as some scandal that follows us both. So what are you saying? Grace met his eyes. I'm saying we need to make this official. Either I leave or we make the arrangement real. Cole's heart pounded. Marriage. She was talking about marriage, the thing Doc Williams had arranged, the thing Sarah had requested before she died, the thing he'd been trying not to think about. You want to get married, he said, not a question. I want to stop being the source of gossip. I want Emma to grow up with a mother who's actually her mother in the eyes of the law and the church. I want to make an honest life here. And marriage would do that. Yes. Cole looked down at Emma, his daughter, the child he'd almost lost, the child Grace had saved. Sarah had wanted this, had specifically requested Grace, had asked Doc Williams to make the arrangement. She'd known she was dying and she'd tried to provide for the people she loved. I don't love you, Cole said bluntly. Grace flinched slightly, but her voice was steady. I don't love you either. I'm still in love with Sarah. I'm still in love with Edward. They looked at each other, two people carrying ghosts, two people trying to build something real out of practical necessity. That's honest, at least, Cole said. Honesty is all I have to offer. Grace's hands were clasped in her lap, tight. I'm not Sarah. I'll never be Sarah. I won't try to replace her or pretend she didn't exist. I wouldn't want you to. But I can be a good mother to Emma. I can be a good partner in running this ranch. I can be faithful and hardworking and honest. I can be a wife in every way that matters except one. Cole understood. She was talking about a marriage of convenience, partnership without passion. We'd share a home, he said slowly, share responsibilities, share Emma's care. Yes, but not a bed. Grace's cheeks colored slightly, but she held his gaze. Not unless you wanted to, eventually, if feelings changed. And if they didn't, then we'd be partners, friends maybe, but nothing more. It was a strange kind of proposal, practical, businesslike, built on mutual need rather than affection. But it was also honest. He thought about the alternative. Grace leaving, Emma growing up without a mother, the ranch falling back into chaos, long, lonely years with only ghosts for company. He thought about Sarah, about what she would want, and he knew the answer. She'd want Emma cared for. She'd want Cole to accept help. She'd want him to move forward instead of staying frozen in grief. All right, he said. Grace's eyes widened. All right, I'll marry you on your terms. Partnership, honesty, no expectations beyond that. You're sure? I'm sure that Emma needs you, that the ranch runs better with you here, that you're a good woman who deserves a real home instead of being hired help who gets gossiped about. Cole paused. And I'm sure Sarah would approve. Grace's expression softened. Sarah was a wise woman. She was. Cole looked down at Emma again. When do you want to do this? Soon, before Mrs. Porter can cause more trouble. Next week. Next week. Grace agreed. They sat in silence again. But it was different now, charged with something new, not romance, but commitment. The decision made, the future set. Grace stood. I should put Emma to bed. Cole handed his daughter over. Their hands brushed, just briefly. Grace took the sleeping baby and headed inside. Cole remained on the porch, looking out at the land he'd built with his own hands. The life he'd thought was over when Sarah died. He wasn't in love with Grace Bennett, probably never would be, but he respected her, trusted her, relied on her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was more than enough. Maybe Sarah had known exactly what she was doing. Sunday came too quickly and not quickly enough. Grace stood in front of the small mirror in the corner of the cabin, adjusting her best dress. Dark blue, plain, but clean and neatly pressed. Her hair was pinned up properly. Her hands were steady. On the outside, she was calm. Inside, her heart hammered. Today, Cole would announce their engagement. Make it public. Make it real. No going back after today. Emma fussed in her cradle. Grace went to her, lifting the baby with practiced ease. 4 months old now, growing every day, learning to smile, to laugh, to reach for the people she loved. She loved Grace. Grace could see it in the way Emma's whole face lit up when Grace entered a room, the way she settled immediately when Grace held her, the way she started making a babbling sound that seemed to mean mama. It broke Grace's heart and mended it at the same time. Cole emerged from the back room dressed in his Sunday best. Dark pants, white shirt. The clothes were clean but worn, mended in places. Grace made a mental note. She could sew, could make him new shirts. It would be expected now that she was going to be his wife. His wife. The thought still felt strange, like trying on clothes that didn't quite fit. Ready? Cole asked. Grace nodded, settled Emma into the sling against her chest. The baby cooed happily. They rode to town in the wagon, Cole driving, Grace beside him, Emma between them, like a family, like the family they were about to become. Pine Ridge came into view, small, rough, but growing. The territory was changing, becoming civilized. The church was already filling when they arrived. Grace felt the eyes turn toward them, felt the whispers start, but this time she wasn't afraid. This time she had armor. They walked in together. Cole's hand at the small of her back, a subtle claim. Grace held Emma close, her own claim. Martha Fletcher caught her eye from across the church, smiled, nodded, support clear. Robert Fletcher sat beside his wife, legs still propped slightly. He tipped his hat to Grace. Acknowledgement, respect. Others watched with varying degrees of curiosity, judgment, acceptance. And in the front pew, Charlotte Porter sat ramrod straight, her niece Margaret beside her, both watching, waiting. The service began. Grace barely heard the sermon. Her mind was too full of what came next. The announcement, the reaction, the finality. When Reverend Morrison called for announcements at the end of the service, Cole stood. The church went silent. Cole Hartwell rarely spoke in public. His standing now commanded attention. "I have an announcement," he said, his voice clear, steady, carrying to every corner. "Miss Grace Bennett and I are engaged to be married. The wedding will take place 2 weeks from today. Everyone's invited." He sat down. The silence stretched, stunned. Then the whispers exploded. Grace kept her eyes forward, her expression calm. Emma gurgled against her chest, oblivious. Charlotte Porter's voice cut through the noise, sharp, carrying. How convenient. All eyes turned to her. Charlotte stood, smooth, elegant, the picture of respectable outrage. "How very convenient," she repeated. "A woman appears from nowhere, moves into a widower's home, and suddenly there's an engagement. One wonders what sort of pressure was applied to achieve such a quick result." Grace felt Cole tense, but she put a hand on his arm. Gentle, restraining. This was her fight. Grace stood, carefully, Emma secure in the sling. She turned to face Charlotte Porter directly. "There was no pressure, Mrs. Porter. The engagement is by mutual agreement, for the benefit of Emma and the proper running of Mr. Hartwell's household." "Proper," Charlotte scoffed. "There's nothing proper about a woman living alone with a man for a month before bothering to get engaged. I came to help with a baby who was starving. I stayed to continue that help. Now we're making the arrangement official. I fail to see what's improper about any of that. You fail to see a lot of things, it seems, such as how suspicious it looks. You arriving from Boston under mysterious circumstances, moving in with a wealthy widower, trapping him into marriage." Grace's hands tightened on Emma, but her voice remained level. "Mr. Hartwell is hardly trapped. He's a grown man capable of making his own decisions." "Is he?" Charlotte's smile was cruel. Or is he a grieving man vulnerable, taken advantage of by a woman with questionable morals and nowhere else to go? The church erupted, some voices supporting Charlotte, others defending Grace. Chaos building. Then a new voice cut through, young, female, shaking with anger. "Aunt Charlotte, that's enough." Everyone turned. Margaret Porter stood, her face pale but determined. She looked at her aunt with something like betrayal in her eyes. "You need to stop," Margaret said. Charlotte's expression hardened. "Sit down, Margaret." "No," Margaret's voice grew stronger. "I won't. Not while you do this." "Do what?" "Destroy an innocent woman because you're angry she didn't fit into your plans." The silence was absolute. Margaret turned to face the congregation. "My aunt wanted me to marry Cole Hartwell. She'd been planning it since before Mrs. Hartwell died. She saw Grace Bennett as a threat to those plans. That's why she's been spreading rumors. That's why she's trying to turn the town against her. Not because of morality, because of jealousy." Charlotte's face went white, then red. "How dare you? How dare I tell the truth?" Margaret's hands were shaking, but she didn't back down. "Miss Bennett has been nothing but kind to me. Every time I've seen her in town, she's treated me with courtesy. She didn't have to. Not when she probably knew what you were planning. But she did anyway, because she's a good person." Margaret looked at Grace. "I'm sorry for what my aunt's done, for the gossip and the lies. You don't deserve any of it." Grace felt her throat tighten. She nodded, unable to speak. Martha Fletcher stood. "Margaret's right. Grace Bennett has shown nothing but Christian charity since she arrived. She saved my husband's leg. She's cared for that baby like it was her own. And she's endured more judgment in 1 month than most of us face in a lifetime. I say we welcome her. Welcome this marriage. And stop listening to spiteful gossip." One by one others stood, supporting Grace, supporting the engagement. Not everyone. Charlotte Porter had her allies, but enough. Enough to matter. Reverend Morrison raised his hands. "Enough. This is a house of God, not a town hall. Mr. Hartwell has made his announcement. The engagement is his business and Miss Bennett's. The rest of us will show Christian respect or stay silent." He looked at Charlotte Porter. "That includes you, Mrs. Porter." Charlotte sat down, stiff, furious, humiliated. Margaret remained standing, meeting her aunt's glare with quiet defiance. Grace sat slowly. Emma was fussing now, picking up on the tension. Grace soothed her automatically, stroking her arm, murmuring calm words. Beside her, Cole's hand found hers under the cover of the pew. Squeezed once. Firm, warm. They'd done it, made it public. Weathered the storm. 2 weeks until the wedding. 2 weeks until Grace Bennett became Grace Hartwell. 2 weeks until the arrangement became permanent. Grace looked down at Emma, at the baby who'd brought her here, who'd given her a purpose when she'd lost her own. Worth it, she thought. Whatever comes next, this is worth it. The baby looked up at her with bright, trusting eyes. And Grace knew she was right. The week after the engagement announcement, Grace discovered what it meant to have an enemy in a small town. It started with small things. The mercantile owner couldn't extend credit to Cole's account. The seamstress was too busy to alter Grace's wedding dress. Women who'd smiled at Grace now crossed the street to avoid her. Charlotte Porter was conducting a war with the precision of a general. Grace stood in the general store watching the proprietor's wife pretend to be very busy organizing canned goods. The woman had helped her just last week. Now she wouldn't make eye contact. "Mrs. Henderson," Grace said quietly, "I need flour and coffee and the items on this list." Mrs. Henderson's hands stilled. She glanced nervously toward the back room. "I'm sorry, Miss Bennett. We can't extend any more credit to the Hartwell account. The account is paid in full. Cole settled it 2 days ago." "Even so," Mrs. Henderson's voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm sorry, truly, but Mr. Henderson says we can't afford to lose Mrs. Porter's business. She spends more in a month than most families spend in a year." Grace felt ice settle in her stomach. "And Mrs. Porter told your husband not to serve me." "She didn't say it directly, just mentioned how she'd be uncomfortable shopping in an establishment that catered to women of questionable character." Mrs. Henderson's eyes filled with regret. "I'm sorry, I know you're a good woman, but we have children to feed." Grace nodded, understanding even as anger burned through her. I see. She turned to leave, nearly collided with Martha Fletcher in the doorway. Martha took one look at Grace's face and understood. She marched past Grace to the counter. Mrs. Henderson, I need the items on Miss Bennett's list. Charge them to my account. Mrs. Fletcher, I don't think that's wise. I didn't ask if you thought it was wise. I asked you to fill the order. Martha's voice was steel-wrapped in courtesy. Unless you plan to refuse my business as well. Mrs. Henderson's face crumpled. Of course not, Mrs. Fletcher. I'll get the items. Outside, Grace waited while Martha supervised the loading of supplies into both their wagons. This is going to get worse before it gets better, Martha said quietly. I know. Charlotte Porter has influence, money. She can make life very difficult for people who cross her. I don't want you to suffer because of me. Martha smiled, a fierce expression. Let her try. Robert and I didn't come west to bow to petty tyrants. We came for freedom, and that includes the freedom to choose our own friends. Grace felt tears prick at her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Just be prepared. Charlotte won't stop at shopkeepers. She'll go after Cole's business, his relationships, anything she can touch. Martha was right. By the end of the week, 3 of Cole's regular buyers for cattle had mysteriously found other suppliers. The bank that had approved his loan for spring equipment suddenly needed additional collateral. Even the blacksmith started finding excuses to delay work on ranch equipment. Cole came home each evening tighter and quieter. Grace could see the pressure building, the way his jaw clenched when another door closed. She found him in the barn one evening repairing a saddle that didn't need repairing, just needing something to do with his hands. How bad is it? She asked. Cole didn't look up. Bad enough. The cattle buyers, all 3 backed out, said they'd found better prices elsewhere, which is a lie. He pulled the leather tight, too tight. Porter's undercutting me, selling at a loss just to freeze me out. Grace leaned against the stall door. Emma was asleep in her sling. What will you do? Find new buyers. It'll mean traveling further, smaller profits. But I'll manage. Cole finally looked at her, his eyes dark with guilt. This is because of me, because I defended you, because we're getting married. This is because of Charlotte Porter's jealousy, not because of anything you did. I could smooth it over, apologize. Tell her there's been a misunderstanding about the engagement. Grace's chest went cold. Is that what you want? No. The word was immediate, fierce. But I don't want you to suffer because of my pride either. This isn't about your pride, Cole. It's about doing what's right. Grace moved closer. We made a choice, both of us. We knew there would be consequences. I didn't think she'd go this far. She's desperate. Desperate people do terrible things. Cole set down the saddle, rubbed his face with both hands. I'm worried about Emma. If this keeps up, if Porter manages to ruin me, I won't be able to provide for her properly. You won't be alone. We'll face it together. Will we, Cole's eyes searched hers, or will you decide this arrangement isn't worth the cost? Grace understood what he was really asking. Whether she'd run, whether she'd abandon him and Emma when things got hard. She thought about Boston, about running from gossip and judgment, about how running hadn't solved anything. I'm not leaving, she said firmly, not because of Charlotte Porter, not because of business losses, not because of anything. I made a commitment to you and Emma. I keep my commitments. Something shifted in Cole's expression. Relief, gratitude, something deeper that he wasn't ready to name. The wedding is still in 9 days, he said. Yes. People are saying we should postpone, that it's too soon after Sarah, that I'm being manipulated. People will always say something. The question is whether we let them decide our lives. Cole stood, closed the distance between them. He was close enough that Grace could feel the warmth radiating from him. Close enough to see the gray flecks in his blue eyes. You're stronger than I gave you credit for, he said quietly. So are you. His hand came up, almost touched her face, then dropped. Professional distance maintained. But Grace had felt the impulse, the wanting. It confused her, frightened her, made something warm unfurl in her chest. This was supposed to be a practical arrangement. But standing here in the lamplight, Emma sleeping between them, Grace felt the boundaries beginning to blur. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by the stage driver with an apologetic expression. Grace recognized the handwriting on the envelope immediately. Edward's mother. Her hands shook as she took it. The paper felt heavy, ominous. Cole was out mending fences. Emma was napping. Grace was alone when she broke the seal and read, "Miss Bennett, it has come to our attention that you have relocated to Wyoming territory. We had hoped you would have the decency to disappear quietly after the shame you brought upon our family. Instead, we hear you are to be married, to impose yourself upon another unsuspecting family. We cannot allow this. Our son died because of your influence, your recklessness, your complete disregard for propriety and safety. We will not stand by while you destroy another man's life. We have consulted with our attorneys. They inform us that we have grounds to pursue criminal charges related to Edward's death. Negligent homicide, reckless endangerment. You could face imprisonment. However, we are prepared to be merciful. If you leave Wyoming immediately, if you sever all contact with this Cole Hartwell and return to Boston to face proper social consequences, we will consider the matter closed. You have 30 days to comply. If you do not, we will pursue every legal avenue available. We will ensure that Mr. Hartwell knows exactly what sort of woman he is marrying. We will make certain the entire territory understands your culpability in our son's death. The choice is yours, but choose wisely. Our family has resources you cannot imagine. We will not be denied justice for Edward." Mrs. Reginald Ashworth Grace read the letter 3 times. Each time the words hit harder. Criminal charges, imprisonment, 30 days. They were serious. The Ashworth family had connections throughout New England. Money enough to hire the best lawyers. Influence enough to make the charges stick regardless of truth. And they would destroy Cole in the process. Destroy Emma's future. Bring scandal down on everyone Grace had come to care about. She sat at the kitchen table, the letter spread before her, and felt the walls closing in. This was what running had gotten her, a temporary reprieve. But the past always caught up. The question was whether she'd pay alone or drag Cole and Emma down with her. When Cole returned for lunch, he found Grace staring out the window, the letter still on the table. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. Grace didn't turn around. "There's a letter from Boston. You should read it." She heard him cross to the table, the rustle of paper, then silence, long and heavy. Finally, "Who are these people?" "Edward's parents, the Ashworths, one of the oldest families in Boston. And they're threatening to charge you with murder. Negligent homicide. It's different, but the penalties are similar." Cole's voice was carefully controlled. "Did you kill him?" Grace turned to face him. "No, but I couldn't save him either. And in their minds, that's the same thing. Tell me what happened. All of it." So Grace did, the whole story, the complete truth. Edward loved riding, fast riding, dangerous jumps. His family had Olympic aspirations for him, and they'd invested thousands in his training. But Edward was reckless. He'd take jumps that weren't safe, push horses beyond their limits. I begged him to be more careful. She moved to the window, looking out at the Wyoming landscape. The day he died, he was attempting a jump his trainer had forbidden. The horse was tired. The weather was bad. I tried to stop him. We argued. He said I was being overcautious, paranoid, that I didn't believe in him. Grace's hands clenched on the windowsill. So I stepped back, let him go, watched him take that jump. The horse refused at the last second. Edward went over its head, broke his neck when he landed. He was dead before I reached him. That's not your fault. His family thinks otherwise. They think if I'd been more supportive, less fearful, he would have succeeded. They think my negativity caused him to doubt himself at the critical moment. That's insane. Maybe, but they believe it, and they have enough money to make a jury believe it too. Cole set the letter down. So what do they want? They want me to leave, to return to Boston, to face social ruin instead of legal consequences. And if you don't, they'll come here. They'll bring their lawyers and their influence. They'll drag us both through a trial, make sure everyone in the territory knows about Edward's death and my role in it. Grace turned to face him. Cole, I can't let that happen. I can't let them destroy you and Emma because of my past. So you're planning to leave? It wasn't a question. He could see it in her face. It's the only way to protect you. Protect me. Cole's laugh was bitter. You think running away protects anyone? It protects Emma. It protects your reputation, your business, your future. What about your future? I don't have one. Not really. I've been running from this since Edward died. Sooner or later, I have to face it. Cole crossed to her in 3 strides, gripped her shoulders. Not rough, but firm enough to make her look at him. Listen to me. Those people don't want justice. They want a scapegoat, someone to blame because they can't accept that their son made a fatal mistake. That doesn't make the threat less real. No, but it means we don't have to surrender to it. Cole's eyes were intense. You're not going back to Boston. You're not facing some kangaroo court designed to crucify you for being there when a reckless man got himself killed. They'll come here. They'll ruin everything. Let them come. This is Wyoming territory, not Boston. Out here, we settle things differently. And I'll be damned if I let some Eastern lawyers intimidate me in my own home. Grace wanted to believe him, wanted to think his determination was enough. But she knew the power the Ashworths wielded. You don't understand, she said quietly. These people own senators, judges. They can make your life hell even out here. Then we'll fight them, together. I don't want to fight them. I just want to be free of them. Then stop running. Cole's grip tightened slightly. Stand your ground. Tell them to come if they dare. Face them with the truth and let a jury of ordinary people decide. Not Boston society, not Eastern lawyers, regular people who understand that sometimes bad things happen and it's nobody's fault. Grace shook her head. You're asking me to risk everything. I'm asking you to trust me. Trust us. Trust that we're stronger together than they are apart. And if we're wrong, if they win, Emma loses everything. Emma loses more if you leave. She loses a mother. I lose a partner. We both lose you. The way he said it so matter-of-fact made Grace's chest ache. This isn't your fight, Cole. It became my fight the moment I asked you to marry me. For better or worse, remember, we haven't said the vows yet, but the principle stands. Grace looked up at him, this proud, stubborn man who'd somehow become her anchor. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I, but I'm more scared of losing you. The admission hung between them, raw, honest. Grace realized something in that moment. This wasn't just about practicality anymore. Somewhere along the way, Cole had started to care, really care, and so had she. I need time to think, she said. Cole released her shoulders, stepped back. How much time? I don't know, but the letter gives them 30 days. I have to decide before then. Decide whether to run or stand, whether to protect you or protect myself. Those aren't mutually exclusive, Grace. We protect each other. That's what partners do. Grace wanted to believe that, wanted to think love and determination were enough to defeat money and power. But she'd seen what the Ashworths could do, and she wasn't sure even Cole's strength was enough to stand against them. The decision was taken out of her hands 3 days later. Grace woke in the night to Emma's crying. Not normal fussing, something different, sharper, distressed. She was at the cradle in seconds, lifting the baby into her arms. Heat radiated from Emma's small body. Fever, high fever. Grace's medical training kicked in immediately. She carried Emma to the lamp, examining her in the light. Flushed cheeks, glassy eyes, rapid breathing. Cole, she called. He was awake instantly. What's wrong? Oh, Emma's sick, high fever. Cole was beside her in moments. He touched Emma's forehead. His face went pale. How high? Very. We need to bring it down now. Grace moved with practiced efficiency. Cool water, cloths. She stripped Emma down, sponging her with water. The baby cried. Weak, pitiful sounds. What caused this? Cole asked, holding Emma's tiny hands. Could be anything. Influenza, pneumonia, infection. Grace checked Emma's throat, her ears listening to her breathing. Her lungs sound congested. It's respiratory. Is it serious? Grace met his eyes. Honesty was all she had. Yes. Babies can decline very quickly with respiratory illness. We need to watch her closely. They worked through the night. Sponge baths, steam treatments. Grace mixed medicinal teas, coaxing drops into Emma's mouth. The baby didn't improve. By dawn, Emma's breathing had become labored. Wheezing, her little chest heaving. Grace had seen this before, in children who didn't survive. "We need Doc Williams," she said. Cole was already pulling on his boots. "I'll ride to town. You stay with her." "Cole," Grace caught his arm. "Ride fast, please." The fear in her voice told him everything. He kissed Emma's forehead. Then he was gone. Grace sat with Emma, rocking her, singing to her, willing the baby to keep fighting. "Stay with me, sweetheart," she whispered. "Please stay with me. Your daddy's bringing help. Just hold on a little longer." Emma's eyes fluttered open, unfocused, glassy with fever. She looked at Grace without really seeing her. Grace's vision blurred, tears spilling over. She couldn't lose this baby. Not after everything. Not after Emma had become hers in every way that mattered. "I love you," Grace whispered. "Do you hear me? I love you so much. You have to fight. You have to stay." Emma's breathing grew shallower, more rapid, the sound of a body struggling for oxygen. Grace adjusted her position, held Emma upright to ease the breathing, applied more cool cloths, did everything her training had taught her, but she knew. Deep in her gut, she knew. Emma needed more than basic nursing care. She needed medicine, equipment, things Grace didn't have. Doc Williams arrived 2 hours later, Cole right behind him. The doctor took one look at Emma and his face went grim. "Pneumonia," he said after a brief examination. "Severe. How long has she been like this?" "Since midnight." The fever spiked quickly. Williams listened to Emma's lungs again, frowned. "There's significant fluid buildup. Her breathing is compromised." "Can you help her?" Cole asked, his voice steady but his eyes desperate. "I can try, but I'll be honest, Cole. Pneumonia in an infant this young is very dangerous. Even with treatment, the mortality rate is high." Grace felt the floor tilt beneath her. "No, there has to be something." Williams looked at her. "There is, but it's risky. I have a new treatment, medicated steaming with eucalyptus and camphor. It can help break up the congestion, but it requires constant monitoring. Any mistake could make things worse." "I'll do it," Grace said immediately. "Tell me what to do." "You'll need to stay with her constantly. Keep the steam going, monitor her breathing, watch for any changes. It's exhausting work. You could be at it for days." "I don't care. Just tell me how to save her." Williams nodded, began giving instructions, how to prepare the steam, what to watch for, warning signs. Cole listened, his face carved from stone. When Williams finished, Cole said, "What are her chances?" The doctor hesitated. "With proper care, maybe 50-50. And without, she won't survive the night." Cole looked at Grace. "Can you do this? I have to." "That's not what I asked." Grace met his eyes. "Yes, I can do this. I will do this." Cole nodded. "Then we do it, whatever it takes." They set up the sick room. Cole brought in supplies. Williams left medicine and instructions. And Grace settled in for the fight of Emma's life. The first day blurred into night. Grace didn't leave Emma's side. Constant steam, constant monitoring. Every breath the baby took was a gift. Cole brought food Grace barely touched, water she drank without tasting. He sat with her when he could, offering silent support. On the second day, Emma seemed worse, breathing more labored, fever refusing to break. Grace was exhausted. Her eyes burned, her hands shook, but she didn't stop. "Talk to her," Doc Williams said during one of his visits. "Let her hear your voice. Sometimes that's what keeps them fighting." So Grace talked about everything and nothing, about Boston and Wyoming, about Emma's future. "You're going to grow up strong," Grace whispered. "You're going to be brave and kind and smart. You're going to ride horses and read books and make your father proud. You're going to have a wonderful life, Emma, but you have to fight for it. Please fight." Cole stood in the doorway listening, his eyes wet. He'd been wrong about Grace. She wasn't just competent. She loved Emma, truly loved her, the way a mother loves a daughter, and he was watching her break apart because she might lose that daughter. On the third day at dawn, Emma's fever broke. Grace felt it happen, felt the heat receding, felt Emma's breathing ease. "Cole," she called. He was there instantly. Her fever, Grace said. It's breaking. Cole touched Emma's forehead, his hand trembling. You're sure? Yes. And her breathing. Listen, it's easier. They sat together watching, waiting, hoping. An hour later, Emma's eyes opened, clear, focused. She looked at Grace and smiled, a weak smile, but a real one. Grace burst into tears, great gasping sobs of relief. Cole pulled her against him, held her while she cried, his own tears falling into her hair. You did it, he whispered. You saved her. Grace shook her head against his chest. We saved her. All of us. She pulled back, looked up at him. Cole, I can't leave. I know the Ashworths are threatening. I know it's dangerous, but I can't leave Emma. I can't leave you. Then don't. They'll come. They'll make things terrible. Let them. We'll face them together, whatever happens. Grace nodded, decision made. Together. Cole's hand came up, cupped her face, his thumb wiping away tears. I don't know when it happened, he said quietly. But somewhere along the way, you became essential. Not just to Emma, to me. Cole, I know we said this was practical. Partnership. But Grace, I need you to know what I feel for you. It's not just gratitude. It's not just convenience. It's more than that. Grace's heart hammered. What are you saying? I'm saying I care about you deeply. I'm saying the thought of you leaving, of facing those people alone terrifies me. I'm saying that somewhere in these past weeks, you became mine to protect. I'm not Sarah. I know. I don't want you to be. I want you to be you. Grace Bennett, the woman who walked into a blizzard to save a stranger's baby, the woman who stood up to Charlotte Porter, the woman who just spent 3 days refusing to let my daughter die. His other hand came up, framing her face. I'm falling in love with you, Grace. Maybe I already have. And I know it's too soon and complicated and probably foolish. But there it is, the truth. Grace couldn't breathe. We agreed, partnership without expectations. I know what we agreed. I'm not asking you to feel the same. I'm just telling you where I stand. So you know, when you decide whether to stay or go, you know exactly what you'd be choosing. Grace stared at him, this proud, damaged man who just laid his heart bare. She thought about Edward, about the love she'd lost, and she realized something. She was still grieving, and Edward would always carry a piece of that grief, but her heart had room for more than ghosts. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? Of loving again, of losing again, of being the reason someone I love gets hurt. Life doesn't come with guarantees, Grace. We could play it safe, keep our distance, protect our hearts. But what kind of life is that? A safe one. A lonely one. Cole's eyes searched hers. I'd rather risk heartbreak with you than live safely without you. Grace felt something break open in her chest. All the walls she'd built, all the fear she'd hoarded. I care about you too, she said. More than I should, more than is wise. Then be unwise with me. Grace laughed, a sound caught between a sob and joy. We're terrible at being practical. The worst. Cole leaned forward, slowly, giving her time to pull away. Grace didn't pull away. Their lips met, gentle at first, then deeper. A kiss that tasted of tears and hope and new beginnings. Emma made a small sound, content, alive. They pulled apart, both smiling. The wedding is in 5 days, Cole said. Yes. Are you still planning to go through with it? Grace looked at Emma, at Cole, at this makeshift family that had somehow become hers. Yes, but on one condition. What's that? When we say those vows, I want them to be real. Not practical, not for appearances. Real. Cole's smile was the most genuine thing she'd ever seen. Deal. Grace sat at the kitchen table with paper and pen. Emma was sleeping peacefully, the crisis past. Cole was in the barn giving Grace privacy. She'd made her decision. Now she had to communicate it. Mrs. Ashworth, I received your letter and your threats. I have considered your demands carefully. My answer is no. I will not be returning to Boston. I will not be abandoning my life here. I will not be allowing your family to dictate my future based on a tragedy that was not my fault. Edward made a choice to take a dangerous jump. He made that choice against advice from his trainers, from me, and from his own common sense. The consequences were tragic, but they were his consequences, not mine. I loved your son. I grieved him. I still carry that grief, but I will not carry the blame for his recklessness. If you choose to pursue legal action, I will fight it. I will hire lawyers. I will testify to the truth. And I will ensure that every detail of Edward's behavior, his risks, his disregard for safety, becomes part of the public record. I don't think you want that. I don't think you want the world to know that your son was reckless and headstrong, that he ignored safety protocols, that he valued glory over wisdom. So here is my counteroffer. Leave me alone. Let me live my life in peace. In return, I will maintain my silence about the circumstances of Edward's death. I will not share his letters where he talked about cutting corners in training. I will not discuss the arguments we had about his dangerous practices. Your family's reputation will remain intact. Your son will be remembered as a tragic loss, not a cautionary tale. But if you come after me, if you threaten me or the people I love, I will share everything. Every letter, every conversation, every warning he ignored. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Sincerely, Grace Bennett, soon to be Grace Hartwell. She signed it, sealed it, sent it on the next stage to Boston. It was a gamble, a bluff really. She didn't have all the letters she'd mentioned. But the Ashworths didn't know that. And Grace was betting that protecting their son's legacy mattered more than punishing her. When she told Cole what she'd done, he smiled. "That's my girl," he said. And Grace realized something. She was his, and he was hers. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright, April sunshine warming the last patches of snow into streams. Grace stood in Martha Fletcher's spare room, staring at herself in the mirror. The dress was simple, white cotton with lace at the collar and cuffs. Martha had altered it, working late into the night. "You look beautiful," Martha said, adjusting the veil. "I look terrified." "That too, but mostly beautiful." Martha smiled. "Cole won't be able to breathe when he sees you." Grace touched the lace at her throat. "This is really happening." "Yes, and it's right. You know that, don't you?" "I do." Grace met Martha's eyes in the mirror. "A month ago, I thought I was making a practical arrangement, marrying for survival, but somewhere along the way it became real. Love has a way of sneaking up on people. I didn't expect to love again. After Edward, I thought that part of me was dead. Hearts are more resilient than we give them credit for." Martha squeezed Grace's shoulder. "You deserve happiness. Emma deserves a mother who loves her. Cole deserves a partner who sees him clearly. This is right." Grace took a deep breath. "Then let's do this." They walked to the church together, Emma in Martha's arms, dressed in a white gown Grace had sewn by hand. The baby was healthy now, thriving. The church was full, more people than Grace had expected. The Fletchers, Doc Williams, Mrs. Peterson, other families from around the territory. People who'd decided that love and courage mattered more than Charlotte Porter's disapproval. Charlotte herself was notably absent, as was her niece Margaret. Grace tried not to feel the sting. Cole stood at the altar with Reverend Morrison. He'd cleaned up well. New shirt Grace had made.